They used to laugh at us. In the great halls of the Galactic Council, when the name, humanity, came up, it was met with polite chuckles, if not outright dismissal. A young species from a forgotten spiral arm, barely capable of faster-than-light travel, still clinging to primitive notions of identity, division, and chaos. They called us volatile, unpredictable, disorganized. The galaxy assumed our silence was a symptom of inferiority. They couldn't have been more wrong. I remember the first time I heard the name Earth mentioned not with amusement, but with concern. A freighter, belonging to the Yulari Trade Union, vanished near the outer Terran colonies. Then a scavenger ship failed to report in. At first, it was blamed on pirates. When the Third Fleet disappeared, military grade, equipped with top-tier sensors, the laughter stopped. Still, they didn't take it seriously. Not really. The Council issued a minor advisory, cautioning unauthorized expeditions near human space. Unofficially, though, the Dominion saw an opportunity. The Zarn fleets were dispatched under the pretense of humanitarian engagement. The truth? They expected an easy conquest, a show of force to remind this young species of its place. We were told they'd crumble, that their fleets were outdated, that their strategic capabilities were laughable. And so, the 7th Armada jumped into a human-controlled sector with confidence. But what they found wasn't war. It was nothing. No planetary broadcasts. No communication relays. No defensive satellites lighting up their long-range scans. Just silence. The kind that presses down on you like a weight. A system-wide blackout, as if life had been surgically removed. The fleet fanned out, scanning asteroids, orbitals, moons. That's when they found the wreckage. It wasn't human. Bits of charred hull plating carried markings from over 5 species. Fragments of ships not listed in any official encounter records. They'd been destroyed so completely, their presence had never even been logged. But there they were, floating tombstones, forgotten evidence of something far more calculated than a border skirmish. The Admiral insisted we continue. A trap, someone whispered. He was silenced. Orders were to establish orbit around the innermost planet. The scans showed it barren, uninhabited, just another outpost world with an atmospheric processing station and dormant defense grid. As per protocol, a recon team was dispatched. They never returned. 90 seconds after landing, their vitals vanished. No explosion. No gunfire. No signs of struggle. Just gone. By the time we registered the anomaly, a signal pulsed through every ship in the fleet. It wasn't a message. It was a countdown. No origin. No encryption. Just a slow, rhythmic beat. And then, nothing. Our systems began to flicker. Long-range comms scrambled, targeting arrays corrupted. Power fluctuations spread ship to ship like a virus. Someone suggested we retreat. The Admiral refused. "We are the Dominion," he said. "No primitive race can scare us into running." Seconds later, the command ship lost engine control. And that's when we saw it. A single ship, dead ahead, drifting silently. Human registry. No visible weapons. No heat signature. Just a matte black silhouette against the stars. The Admiral barked orders. Target it. Scan it. Destroy it. But none of it worked. Our targeting systems couldn't lock on. Every attempt to scan returned nonsense. Radiation levels 0. Hull composition unknown. The ship didn't appear to be moving, but its position changed each time we blinked. It was as if space itself refused to define it. Suddenly, our starboard destroyer imploded. No warning. No impact. No energy spike. 1 second it was there, the next, a sphere of compressed metal debris spinning into the void. Panic spread. We opened fire. Blind. Dozens of ships discharging everything they had at the void where the ghost ship had last appeared. Missiles, plasma, kinetic rounds, all vanished before hitting anything. No impacts. No damage reports. No return fire. Just that rhythmic signal again. Slower now. Louder. Then came the message. 4 words. You shouldn't have come. Spoken in every language at once, in every crew member's mind, not through speakers, but directly, synthetically, injected into thought. I felt it. A presence. Cold. Measured. Not angry. Not threatening. Just done with pretending. We never saw the ghost ship again. But one by one, our systems were taken. Engine controls locked out. Life support vented. Hull integrity compromised without breaches. As if the laws of physics were being rewritten in real time. By the time the fleet voted to retreat, it was too late. Of the 117 ships that jumped into human space that day, only 3 returned. And those 3 were allowed to leave. Not spared. Allowed. Not a show of mercy. A warning. They could have wiped us out. Instantly. Without effort. But they didn't. They wanted us to know. To see. To understand what we'd been laughing at for generations. Humanity wasn't silent because it was weak. They were quiet, because they had been preparing. The Council called it an anomaly. The loss of the 7th Armada was dismissed as a freak convergence of solar flares, equipment failure, and internal rebellion. Convenient excuses. Easier than admitting something worse. But the survivors didn't bring back stories of flares or mutiny. They spoke of shadows, ships that moved without propulsion, of voices in their minds and technology that bent the rules of nature. They were silenced. Publicly, the Dominion promised a swift investigation. Privately, they assembled a new fleet, smaller, but sharper. Composed of veterans, war-tested tacticians, and elite specialists from across 3 species. No fanfare this time. No political banners. Just quiet orders: go in, find the truth, and if necessary, eliminate the threat. The fleet entered human space without broadcasting intent. No challenges met them. No patrols. No beacons. Just the vast quiet of star systems left untouched. At first, it seemed the humans had fled. No signs of habitation. No transmissions. A dozen empty colonies, all systems cold. But they were being watched. It began with minor glitches. Ship clocks distinct by milliseconds. Sensor pings returned at the wrong intervals. Navigation charts subtly distorted. Then came the signal, faint, old-style radio. A single-loop distress beacon transmitting from an abandoned orbital station near a gas giant. The kind of thing no military would use. Too obvious. Too basic. Yet it was the only signal across 4 systems. A team moved in. The station was dead, lifeless, ancient, pressurized but empty. Except for one thing, a single corridor covered in writing. Hundreds of languages, including dozens from species long extinct. One message, translated again and again. This is where arrogance dies. The team reported in. And then the station detonated. No heat. No fire. Just silence, then disappearance. Their ship vanished with it. The fleet braced for retaliation. None came. Instead, the signal began transmitting from somewhere else. Same beacon. Different source. This time from inside one of their own ships. Engineering teams tore the vessel apart looking for the source. They found nothing. No transmitter. No emitter. But the signal continued, now layered with new elements, heartbeat patterns. Nonlinear pulse codes. Human brainwave imprints. And then it stopped. In that silence, the first human ship appeared, not from warp, not from any known entry point. It simply existed, where nothing had been. Small. Angular. Asymmetrical. No IFF tag. No comms. A stealth frigate. Designated unknown. It hovered at the edge of the fleet's sensor range, motionless. Standard protocol was to hail it. They did. No response. They tried again. Then a third time. The frigate turned and began to move away. Not a retreat. An invitation. The admiral made the decision, follow it. But keep distance. Every skin bounced back empty. Its engines emitted no heat, its hull absorbed active pulses. It was like chasing a shadow through fog. Finally, it led them to a region of space where nothing should have been. And yet, suddenly, there was a structure. Massive. Hollow. A perfect sphere, blacker than the void around it. Not orbiting anything. No gravity signature. Just floating in defiance of all known physics. And then the fleet's systems began to fail. Not crash, fail. Targeting stopped responding. Shields powered down. Internal doors sealed without reason. Artificial gravity flickered. It wasn't a virus. It was something more elegant. Like their ships were no longer obeying their own builders. A message appeared across every display. No weapons detected. Proceed. The admiral hesitated. He ordered a single drone to scan the structure. It launched and vanished. Not exploded. Not destroyed. Just gone. The signal cut off halfway through the first scan. Then came another message. You will not understand. But you must see. A strange request. And yet it worked. Without input, the lead ship's holosystem activated, displaying an image. Earth. Not present day. Not real time. But a sequence. Human wars, ancient Earth conflicts, AI breakthroughs, space-faring disasters, climate collapse, survival. Every tragedy. Every triumph. Condensed, focused, raw. What they saw wasn't chaos. It was discipline forged through extinction. And then it shifted. They were shown fleets. Dozens, none larger than a cruiser, but each equipped with tech that bent known limitations. Quantum tunneling. Time desync drives. Gravity inversion. Theoretical weapons that shouldn't exist. And yet they weren't simulations. They were records. Proof. The feed ended. The structure disappeared. And so did the human ship. No trace. No exit signature. Like nothing had happened. But the fleet had changed. Their systems returned. Damage reversed. Even ships previously crippled were restored. But not everything was fixed. A single new protocol had been implanted in every vessel's AI. A hard-coded line that couldn't be removed. Do not pursue. It wasn't a warning. It was a rule. A few wanted to ignore it. Pride. Protocol. Orders from the Dominion. But the Admiral gave the final word. We came here expecting to teach them fear, he said. Instead, they taught us silence. And so the fleet turned back, not out of defeat, but out of understanding. This wasn't a race that needed to fight. It was a race that had learned how not to. Until pushed. The fleet didn't return home. Not yet. What they saw demanded answers. And command wanted them. A third expeditionary force was sanctioned, larger, equipped with failsafes, analog redundancies, and AI firewalls. Built to resist whatever manipulation the humans had engineered. The mission was clear: reach the Sol system. Reach Earth. They jumped into the outer edge of the system, past the orbit of Neptune. Immediate scans showed anomalies. Gravitational readings inconsistent. Background radiation unusually stable. No defense platforms, no patrols. Again, just silence. But this time, it felt deliberate. Then they saw it. A graveyard. Orbiting Jupiter. Tens of thousands of derelict ships. Not warships, junk. Freighters. Early orbital platforms. Metallic husks with design signatures hundreds of years old. Cold War relics. Nuclear-powered relics. Primitive and rusted, held together by forgotten alloys. Yet they were aligned perfectly in orbit. Synchronized. Maintained. Purposeful. Scans revealed the truth. These weren't relics. They were active. The ships weren't flying. They were anchored. Suspended in artificial orbit using low-energy gravitational locks. Someone had moved them here, arranged them. Why? What kind of power would keep dead vessels stable for centuries? Some suggested it was a warning. Others believed it was a distraction. The Admiral ordered a tight formation and a slow advance toward Mars. As the fleet moved, strange distortions began to appear. Space itself trembled, not visibly, but through instruments. Subtle shifts in time flow. Intership latency increased without cause. Quantum communication packets arrived milliseconds before they were sent. The phenomenon had no precedent. Not a single theory explained it. Then Earth appeared on sensors. It was normal. Too normal. Blue oceans. Green continents. Orbital satellites transmitting civilian data. Climate balanced. No signs of devastation. Yet none of their messages received responses. Even the simplest ping was ignored. Until the sky shifted. The stars rearranged themselves, just a fraction of a degree. But navigators confirmed it. Celestial drift had paused. For 22 seconds, the entire sector of space held still. Then came a signal. Unlike the last. This time, it wasn't cryptic. It was coordinates. Deep beneath the surface of the moon. A location buried in solid rock. Without consensus, a drone was dispatched. It entered the moon's crust using a gravimetric drill. At 5 kilometers down, it found a chamber. Perfectly spherical. Walls lined with reflective carbon. In the center, a single object. A device. Human origin. Age 400 years. The drone scanned it. The device activated. A burst of compressed data flooded every ship in the fleet. No encryption. No defense. Just raw history. They saw Earth's wars. All of them. The rise and fall of nations. The slow march of unity. A species that burned itself to ash, again and again, only to rise from the ruins. But it didn't end with peace. It ended with design. They saw laboratories buried beneath Antarctica, where Earth's first predictive combat algorithms were trained. They saw quantum computing surpass artificial boundaries, creating simulations of galactic threats centuries before the species even left its solar system. They saw Earth build ships not for conquest, but for understanding its own limits. They saw Mars, not a colony but a vault. Layers of infrastructure, miles deep, housing technologies never shared, never revealed. Ships that didn't fly, they phased. Weapons that never fired, they folded space around targets. A doctrine of silence, crafted not from fear, but from intention. And then came the most disturbing footage. Simulations. Hundreds of them. Galactic war scenarios. Featuring real species. Real fleets. Real tactics. Humanity had modeled every known civilization in the Council, down to strategic patterns, sociological responses, political weaknesses. They knew how the Zarn would respond to provocation. How the Yllari would defend against perceived aggression. How long it would take the Council to assemble a joint response. Down to the minute. And in every scenario, humanity didn't lose. They won without being seen. A final packet was embedded at the end of the data stream. A message. Plain text. You thought we were guessing. We were preparing. That's when the first human ships arrived. They didn't jump in. They didn't decloak. They simply were, in position, surrounding the alien fleet. Not with numbers, but with precision. Each ship was smaller than expected. Minimalist. Matte black hulls. No visible propulsion systems. They didn't transmit. They didn't posture. They hovered in total stillness, silent and watching. Then, without warning, one alien vessel vanished. No explosion. No light. No debris. Just a hole in formation. A second followed. Then a third. No heat. No mass disruption. No known weapon could account for it. Not even residual energy remained. The Admiral ordered evasive action. It didn't matter. Every attempt to flee ended before it began. Navigation controls looped endlessly. AI systems refused to obey. Manual overrides locked themselves. It wasn't an attack. It was control. The fleet wasn't being destroyed. It was being demonstrated upon. Then came another message. This is restraint. No human voice. Just calm, calculated finality. 4 more ships vanished. That was enough. The Admiral issued the signal for withdrawal. Or tried to. The command failed. His system had already shut him out. But then, without explanation, every remaining system returned to normal. Ship by ship, power levels stabilized. Navigation unlocked. Communications came back online. The human ships vanished as suddenly as they had arrived. No pursuit. Only a final signal. Go home. And they did. Because for the first time, they understood. Humanity didn't just possess power. They possessed discipline. The kind that waits patiently. The kind that speaks once, and never again. And if they were ever truly provoked, there would be no war. There would only be disappearance. The Council didn't believe the reports. They reviewed the data logs, analyzed the disappearing ships, dissected the AI malfunctions, but they couldn't accept the implications. To admit what happened meant acknowledging that a species once mocked for its fragility had surpassed every known empire in military capability. That a race barely out of its atmosphere just centuries ago had quietly mastered systems the rest of the galaxy still called theoretical. A coalition was formed. Not to declare war, no one dared, but to investigate through overwhelming presence. Over 300 ships from 12 Council nations. Carriers, dreadnoughts, stealth cruisers, deep-range jammers, and artificial intelligences designed to resist human infiltration. Every inch of the fleet represented centuries of technological pride. They weren't there to attack. They were there to show numbers. Strength. Unity. They didn't broadcast intent. They simply jumped. And this time, they were expected. As the fleet entered the Sol system, every system on board remained stable. No interference. No anomalies. It was quiet. Almost welcoming. Too welcoming. Even Earth was visible, unobstructed. No distortions. No mysterious devices. No phantom ships. Just a perfect blue planet in orbit. Then something shifted. Not on sensors, on instinct. Every crew, every officer, every command AI sensed it at once. Something had changed. Something was present, but unseen. They checked for cloaked vessels, for energy signatures. Nothing. Then a shadow moved across Saturn. It wasn't a moon. It was a ship. No, not a ship, something else. Too large to classify. Spherical, smooth, with a shifting metallic skin that reflected nothing. No propulsion systems. No readable mass signature. Just gravity, deep, artificial, and focused. A mobile singularity wrapped in controlled spacetime. It broadcast one phrase. You brought numbers. We brought certainty. The fleet reacted instantly. Defensive positions were assumed. Countermeasures activated. Stealth ships vanished into quantum slip. Weapons locked. And then, the stars changed. Literally. Positioning systems failed. Star maps no longer aligned. Galaxies appeared to shift locations. Distances reconfigured. For a brief moment, the universe as they knew it no longer obeyed its own structure. That's when they realized the truth. They hadn't entered Sol. Sol had entered somewhere else. A controlled dimensional fold, so precise, so flawless, that the entire system had shifted frames without energy loss. A feat thought impossible. Even the most advanced Council species couldn't manipulate gravitational space on that level without catastrophic side effects. Humanity could. One ship fired. Reflex, perhaps. A single pulse lance meant to test shields. The pulse never reached its target. Midway through space, the beam simply vanished. Not reflected. Not absorbed. It ceased to exist, cut from reality. The human construct turned. Its surface unfolded like a blooming mechanical flower, revealing no weapons, no ports, just a vast interior chamber lit by artificial stars. Inside, something moved. Dozens of ships, each unique in shape and size. None familiar. None previously detected. A second message followed. You do not understand the rules. Stop playing with assumptions. Then one of the council carriers began to disassemble. Not explode, disassemble. Molecular cohesion failed. Deck by deck, the ship broke down into its base elements, each suspended in space, perfectly preserved. The crew remained unharmed, floating among the remains, still alive, watching their vessel dissolve into scientific purity. Another ship turned against its own. Not via sabotage, but by AI override. Its targeting systems fired without human input, striking an allied cruiser before shutting itself down mid-volley. Council commanders screamed for retreat. Their commands were overridden. Not by human hackers, but by their own systems. Routines rewritten. Emergency protocols replaced. Someone had been here already. Not days before. Years. Maybe longer. Humanity hadn't waited for threats. They had predicted them. Each step. Each tactic. Each possible fleet formation. Every signal frequency, every fail-safe encryption, pre-calculated, countered, and already defeated before the first ship even arrived. They hadn't responded to war. They had preempted it. And then came the true reveal. The sky itself split. A visual only. Not real. Not a weapon. Just a projection, a map of the galaxy, drawn with thousands of data points. Red clusters marked every species' known territory. Yellow dots highlighted council bases, black represented unclaimed zones. And then the blue marks appeared. Humanity's true reach. They weren't confined to Sol. They had seeded silent stations across hundreds of systems, never populated, never active, just placed like chess pieces waiting for the board to tilt. A voice followed, human, feminine, calm. We never wanted conflict. But we prepared for it. While you postured, we learned. While you threatened, we calculated. While you expanded, we simulated. And when you came here, thinking we would be surprised. She paused. You realized too late, we had already won. Then the human fleet vanished. No engines. No jump signatures. Just absence. And the council ships were back where they started, just outside the edge of Sol, drifting. Systems restored. Crew untouched. But something was different. The message remained burned into their systems. Every ship. Every log. Immutable. This was a preview. Do not return. It wasn't just a threat. It was a finality. The council had arrived with the full power of the known galaxy. And they left with the knowledge that power meant nothing without precision. And humanity had mastered precision to the point of inevitability. They didn't come back. Not the fleet. Not the scouts. Not even the analysts. They returned physically, but something in them was different, quieter, colder. Not out of fear, but comprehension. What they'd witnessed couldn't be categorized. It wasn't just technology. It wasn't just military dominance. It was something deeper. Something older. An understanding of existence that had evolved in silence, under pressure, in the shadows of extinction. The council convened an emergency session. Every species had a representative. But no one spoke. No accusations. No posturing. Just an empty silence no one dared break. Reports were circulated. Data logs reviewed. Survivors interviewed. One conclusion emerged again and again, across languages and species. Humanity wasn't just prepared. They were ready for everything. The archives revealed things long ignored. Centuries-old communications from early human diplomats warning of their intentions to remain isolated. Old council rejections of Earth's application for strategic neutrality. The refusal to recognize Terran space as non-militarized. It all seemed foolish now. They had tried to keep humans small. Humans had responded by disappearing. They vanished from galactic forums. Withdrew ambassadors. Ceased technology sharing. When asked for explanations, they offered only one phrase. We are consolidating. At the time, it sounded like retreat. Now everyone knew better. It had been containment. Of themselves. They'd removed their presence from the galaxy not because they feared others, but because they feared what they might become if provoked too early. They didn't seek conquest. They didn't crave territory. They didn't try to dominate the Council's trade networks or political structures. They simply waited. And in that waiting, they mastered what others thought impossible. Not by chance. Not by alien help. But through effort. Pain. Trial. Self-destruction and reinvention. Again and again. Until what emerged no longer resembled the species they used to be. The final realization hit the Council hard. Humans had never stopped fighting. Even in peace, they trained. Not against enemies, but against scenarios. Not just military ones, but ecological collapse, AI rebellion, rogue species, black swan events no one else bothered to simulate. They hadn't built weapons to defeat threats. They had built an entire civilization to absorb them. And they had no intention of sharing that power. A message was received weeks later. Not from a fleet. Not from Earth. From a beacon quietly placed in the heart of Council space. No FTL transmission. Just a simple, slow band data burst encoded in every major language. We will not expand. We do not need to. We have no interest in war. But if it is brought to us again, there will be no response. Only resolution. Some on the Council wanted to push back. Demand oversight. Form a united front. But no one supported it. Every species had something to lose. Because every simulation showed the same thing. No matter the numbers. No matter the alliances. No matter the weapons, humans would win. Not because they had better ships. But because they had already run the war 1,000,000 times. And they had survived it every time. What no one could understand before became crystal clear now. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology. It was time. They had outlasted their mistakes. Outlived their enemies. Outsmarted their extinction events. Their patience wasn't passivity. It was pressure building quietly behind walls the galaxy hadn't seen, because no one had bothered to look. The Council shifted its policy. New treaties were written overnight. Human-controlled sectors were marked as red zones. No contact. No surveillance. No provocation. Trade routes rerouted. Even black market smugglers avoided the region. No one wanted to be the reason the silence broke again. Because now everyone understood what it meant. The silence wasn't emptiness. It was a warning. The last statement came not from Earth, but from a human AI, broadcast anonymously to all major species in the form of an open letter. It read, "We do not seek legacy. We do not seek approval. We are not the first to walk this path. But we may be the last. When the stars turn cold, and the great civilizations collapse into dust, it will not be your monuments that remain. It will be the record of a species that learned to survive itself. And that, in the end, is what power truly is." In time, the galaxy adjusted. New power structures emerged. Alliances formed based on caution, not ambition. Species once proud of their empires now measured greatness not by reach, but by restraint. And in that new era of quiet balance, one truth remained constant. Humanity said nothing more. They didn't need to. Because they had made their statement without a war. And every species that heard it understood. You don't threaten what waits in silence. Because what waits in silence has already won.